Hi, Paul. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear. I had to unmute myself. I hear you.
Hi, it's so good seeing you.
Oh, well, hold on to your hats. Here we go.
Yes, we can't wait.
What time is it? Is it time?
It is time.
Oh, come on, it's time. Oh, well, I'm so happy to see you all. Welcome back to Why Not Mondays.
Oh, hi, Joanne is on.
Yeah, oh, we're having a party. And Ara's there. So, hey, Ara, unmute a second. So Ara, tell me, or do you know does it get hot? I mean, hot summertime in Armenia? It's up in the Caucasus. I know it's the lower Caucasus, but still.
Yep. It does get pretty warm in Armenia in the summer, but where they make the wine, these wines come from are very high elevation, some of them.
Right.
It stays pretty cool, but in Yerevan, which is the capital of Armenia, it does get pretty hot and humid in the summer.
And is that because Yerevan is a little lower altitude?
Lower altitude, landlocked, right?
Yeah.
So it's the humidity and the heat can get to, I think last summer it was one of the hottest summers in Armenia on history, and I'm sure global warming has a lot to do with it as well.
I have every reason to believe it. I've drunk the Kool-Aid. I believe in global warming.
Right.
Right. Okay. Glad we got that out of the way. Okay. Well, here's looking at all of you. Nostrovia. Okay. So we have 3 wines from Armenia made from traditional Armenian grapes. These are not grapes whose names come trippingly off the tongue. They are, the easiest to say is our red wine, Areni. And I believe Areni is not only the name of the grape, but also a name of a region in Armenia. And so I want to start with some pictures, little PowerPoint, if I may. So we'll get an idea of what we're talking about here. And so there we are, the map of Armenia and neighboring area. So we see Georgia to the north, Turkey and Iran to the south and west, Azerbaijan to the northeast, and a fairly sizable lake in the center. Again, we are up in we're in what's called the lower Caucasus. And although there are several wine regions, all of the wines we're having today come from south of the lake there in Vayot Dzor. I hope I said that right. I'm happy to be corrected. So, well, let's go to the next slide so that we can get a better view of where we are. And so here you see the greater Upper Caucasus. That is the natural boundary between Russia, what became the USSR, and then back to just Russia, Georgia on the south side of the Greater Caucasus, kind of then in these lower, lesser Caucasus, Georgia and Armenia. And we have to go back. Oh, it's probably 1,000,000 years when all of the major mountain chains of the world were created roughly during the same time period. And mountain chains are built by the pushing together of land masses. The example I like to give for this is when the Indian subcontinent ran into the rest of Asia, those two land masses coming together pushed land up and created the Himalaya mountains and the mountain chain. These are similar forces that caused the Alps to rise. Here in California, our coastal range and the Sierra Nevada mountains are all the source of this tectonic movement that created mountains. In the case of the Caucasus, not only did we have traditional mountain building, but there were volcanic eruptions that also added to this mountain building. And as a result, we have a lot of volcanic soils, mineral-rich volcanic soils that are wonderful for growing. And so this is the environment that can get hot in the summer, but of course we have cold winters with snow. We have inland where we get the heat during the day, but then cold coming down out of the mountains at night, what creates what we call a diurnal environment of hot days, cold nights. So I guess there are mixed opinions on if that's good or bad for grapes. I'm in the pro camp that the daytime heat is what helps the grapes build their sugars, and yet the nighttime cold helps to bring the acids back up, because as sugars rise in grapes, the acids tend to fall. And so the colder nights helps to bring that acidity back to the grapes. And we want to harvest these grapes when we get the best balance of acid and sugar to make great wine. We are here in the land where the oldest remnants of wine production have been found. And I've got a slide down further along that shows some of the ancient caves that were discovered where wine was made. But we date this area of winemaking back to 4000 BC. So 6,000 years ago, we had serious wine production going on. Some of these wines were filtering down into the fertile delta of ancient Mesopotamia. And some of those grapes perhaps too moved, mutated vines from Mesopotamia, then wound up populating Europe. And okay, there we go. Just checking my texts, let me just wet my whistle a little with this wonderful sparkling wine. I actually have water today. I don't know this. Maybe it's the sandwich that I got at Perry's today is making me a little thirsty, but I'm going to cleanse my palate with a little of this sparkling wine. And I'll talk to you about it later. That's so nice. I tell you, it makes me so happy. Okay, anyway. So, ancient area of winemaking. Let's look at the next slide where we can get the wine map so you can see some of the other areas of grape growing and wine production. Yeah, but as I say, the three wines that you have before you are from this central southern area of Vayots d'Or. And you see that the Armenia grape is a popular grape there, as well as look at that Syrah, a white grape Voscaat, and that white grape is going to show up, I believe, in both the yes, both our traditional method sparkling wine and part of the blend for our white blend. Let's see this next picture. It's pretty dramatic. I've seen this particular shot in many different publications. So this is a classic shot of vineyards and the monk's castle, and of course the mountains behind. That gives you an idea of well, the beauty, the drama. Actually, this here too is it's a rugged land, a rugged beauty in the foothills of the Caucasus Mountains.
Paul,
Yeah.
If I could just share a piece of information with you.
I wish you would.
This is Khor Virab. Khor Virab is a monastery that dates back to the 4th century. 4th century. It was in this location where there was a dungeon pit where a Christian monk was imprisoned for 14 years and released only to try and cure the king of madness. And when he did, he converted the king to Christianity, and the king then converted the entire country as the first Christian nation. It was in this location.
And did the monk cure him with wine?
No, but they probably toasted the success.
Well, I think we should all do that right now. Cheers. And thank you for that. That's a wonderful addition. This is what I love about now having these Zoom tastings as opposed to the previous that I couldn't have any conversation. This is a wonderful addition. I appreciate it. So next, you'll get an example of what an old vine looks like. Well, I guess here's that's the one after. But okay, let's go to this one. So here's just another shot of the vineyards now. This is actually jumping ahead. These are the vineyards for the white and red wine that we have. The Yacubian Hobbs. This is a shot from their vineyard. And then after that, we have, I believe, yeah, there we go. So that's a pretty old, gnarled vine. Of course, we're not talking 4,000 years or 6,000 years old, but grape growing has been going on. You know, Armenia was part of the Russian Federation. And during the time of Russian control, a lot of wine was produced for just, bulk wine or for brandy production. Fine wine making occurred before and after Russian control. This is the case in a lot of places. Hungary is another one that has been pretty dramatic since it left the communist bloc, and wonderful, wonderful wines coming out of Hungary. That I can foresee a Hungarian wine tasting down the road for us. Finally, I think there's one more picture, and there we go. So again, this comes off of the website of Jacobi and Hobbes. They show this cave because in olden days, in ancient times, when winemaking was done in clay urns, clay amphora, when we go way back, we're talking about the time of just the beginning of civilization, where we learned, we domesticated, we learned how to plant for a harvest as opposed to just hunting and gathering. We learned how to take clay from the earth to make urns and cups and urns for food storage, for our harvest of our barley and our wheat and rye, and urns to hold our grapes. And I can imagine it was, going back further than 4000 BC when the first harvests would be made of grapes in your clay urn. And really the intent was that we were going to squeeze the grapes into a cup to drink the sweet juice, or we would eat the grapes. And of course, over the course of a couple of weeks that we're eating our grapes, what's happening is the grapes are starting to get soft and juice is coming out of them, and the yeast that's on the skins of the grape immediately start to ferment that grape juice that's at the bottom of the urn. Of course, we might not have noticed that was happening until we had eaten enough grapes that we got to the bottom and we see grape juice there, and we take our cup to scoop it up to drink the sweet juice, only it's no longer sweet because the yeast had eaten the sugar, converted it to alcohol, and made wine. And of course, it might not have pleased us that it wasn't sweet, but it certainly pleased us from the alcohol that it made us very happy. And subsequent years and harvests, we then filled the urn with grapes, but this time we wanted to make the wine, so we crushed the grapes. And imagine now you get to witness, because previously we just found the already fermented juice, but now we crush the grapes and we start to witness fermentation. You start to see the carbon dioxide gas coming off the top of the urn. And as the fermentation really started to go, when yeast eats sugar to make alcohol, carbon dioxide is created, and this chemical reaction is giving off heat. Anytime we convert one element into another, this reaction creates heat. And can you imagine seeing a bubbling cask and heat coming off, but knowing that there was no fire underneath creating the heat, and wondering what's going on? And the only thing in that time that could have done that would have been God above, which is why wine has become a part of the sacrament of many cultures. And so what they learned was that if they would bury the urns in the earth, that would give a way of controlling the temperature, to have a slow, steady fermentation. And this is the land here in Georgia that was the beginning of winemaking. And they would take their white grapes on the stems and just put them into the urns and crush them and let it ferment. So orange wines that have become popular over the past few years are really an ancient style of winemaking, of fermenting white wine rather than just crushing the grapes and fermenting just the juice, of fermenting wine with the grape skins and stems all together. And of course, red wine would have been made the same, but it would make red wine because having the juice in contact with the skins, the dye is in the skins that creates the color. So ancient winemaking history right there before you. Okay, so let's come back to me and let's talk about these wines and these wineries. What's Amy's name? Dagnabbit. The winery is called Kush by just shortening her name. That Kushgarian, yeah. Amy Kushgarian, she and her family have these vineyards and are making these wines. And so here we have really the cross of cultures, because we're talking about an ancient land. I guess in some ways it doesn't get more old world than wine from Armenia. And yet they're employing modern winemaking techniques, the use of stainless steel fermenters to make a clean, more sanitary fermentation than what might have come out of those urns in the cave. And so not only so Armenia is today 1 foot in the old world and 1 foot in the new world. We have really new world styled wines from these ancient grape varieties. This wine is 60% Voskahat, 40% Katuni. So here's an interesting piece of information, because there is an aphid-like bug that is found in many of the soils of the world. Truth be known, the bug is native to the United States. It's most commonly known as Phylloxera vastatrix, Phylloxera the devastator, because this root louse that thrived on the roots of grapevines, when it left and came to Europe first, it wound up devastating the vineyards of Europe. American vines had, through the course of time, created their own natural protection from the bug, but the European Vitis vinifera vines didn't have this million years of time to develop. And so those vines started to wither and die. And so the answer to how are we going to get over this, because when phylloxera was discovered in Europe, a $1 million reward was offered to the person that could figure out how to kill the bug. Of course, the reward was never paid because nobody figured out how to kill the bug. So the second best answer was to use the American vines, the American roots that had a natural protection against the bug, cut the top of that American vine off, and then graft the grape variety onto that root that you wanted to grow. And that has become a standard operating procedure around the world. And yet this vineyard here, the Kush vineyards, are ungrafted vines. And there are certain areas of the world that are phylloxera free, because this bug cannot negotiate sandy soils. So perhaps there's a lot of sand in the soils here that are protecting them, because you saw that gnarly old vine that comes from the Kashgarian vineyard. So this wine ferments and then goes into the bottle at about 10% alcohol, very low in alcohol, because of course, in the bottle, the wine is going to go through a second fermentation, right? This wine is made the same way that champagne is made. So they put, well, today they'll put a soda cap on top of the bottle. Like this is just the cork that came out of it. And the soda cap is going to prevent the carbon dioxide from escaping the bottle, and then the carbon dioxide is going to dissolve into the wine. That second fermentation is going to raise the alcohol level by about 2 degrees of alcohol, add gas, and this wine aged for 22 months with the yeast in the bottle. And we know what happens is that after the yeast has consumed all of the sugar with no food to feed the yeast themselves start to break down. And as they break down, they release their amino acids into the wine that contributes this aroma, this yeasty toasted brioche aroma. That's kind of how I describe that. And so this wine is 12% alcohol. Let's analyze the acidity of this wine, shall we? I'm feeling it on the sides of my tongue. Besides the bubbles that are there, the acid in the wine is prominent. It makes me salivate. I feel it on the sides of the tongue. And because these grapes are, even in spite of the hot summer, these grapes are going to be harvested early so that the acid is still prominent. And we want our sparkling wines to be cleansing acid as well as cleansing bubble to the palate. I get more of a pear and melon, maybe a slight, more pear and melon fruits with some lemon citrus. The yeastiness, because of the relatively low alcohol and the high acid, that I always say that it's the acid that carries the scent of the mineral of the soil. And so I get this slight, I don't know, sandy, chalky, aromatic. And I think it's quite pleasant. Limestone and volcanic rock is what these vines are growing in. Hand harvested. And I would call this pretty dry. Actually, I'd call it bone dry. And yet the wine has 5 grams of sugar residual. Why is that? Because without the sugar, the acid would be maybe too tart. And so they add that little bit of sugar as a way of balancing the acidity to make a very pleasant acid rather than a kind of a teeth gnashing, drying acid. Anybody got something to say about this wine? Comments? You likey, you don't likey? Okay. Well, silence is golden, I guess. Oh, here we go.
So
All
I
right.
wanted to add that this is the highest elevation wine vineyard that's made in Method Traditional, so it's in Champagne style. So it's
Right.
the highest elevation vineyard in the world that makes this style of wine.
And what we know is as we go higher in elevation, the climate gets colder. And so it's, again, we'll get hot days, cold nights, those cold nights preserving the acidity, harvesting. Well, there's plenty of fruit here, so it's not like they harvested underripe grapes. Wonderful ripeness, and I think it's a winner. And what did we sell this at? What was this, $18?
Well, Paul, the consensus over here is we like it.
Yeah, well, thanks, because so do I. So much so, I think I should just pour myself a little bit more. Okay, so next we're going to we'll come back here a second. So our next two wines are the same winery, Yakubian Hobbs. And, this is a perfect example of old world and new world. Very clean, hygienic. They have the personality. Oh, look at that. Hi, everybody. Juliet and family. Hi. Okay. So, okay, come on. Don't distract me. Yakubian, of course, that's the Armenian family. And then Hobbs is Paul Hobbs, who is a famous American winemaker. Paul Hobbs, for all intents and purposes, he didn't literally start. I don't believe that was his first job, but he earned his stripes working at Opus One in Napa Valley. And it was there at Opus that he will say that was the finish to his education. And after, I don't know that then I won't. I'll just say that working in a prestigious winery gave him contacts around the world. So that then after Opus, Paul Hobbs started his own label. He started consulting to wineries in Argentina. And here we have yet another of his joint ventures, this Yakubian Hobbs. Now, I will give a little bit of personal that I think that Paul Hobbs wines are, under the Paul Hobbs labels, are classic American style. A little richer, a little riper. With that richer and riper, he adds a little bit extra new oak. So I think that his wines benefit under the Paul Hobbs label. The Paul Hobbs wines benefit from aging to allow some of that concentrated fruit to die off, to allow the oak time to integrate into the wine. I'm very pleased with these wines, this Yakubian Hobbs, in that we're not dealing with heavy oak-laden wines, yet we are still getting that new world ripeness. The white wine blend is 14% alcohol. This Armenia red wine is 14.5% alcohol. So he still has very much a new world palate And, you see, Opus One was a joint venture between Robert Mondavi and Philippe de Rothschild from Chateau Mouton Rothschild. So, that was supposed to be the coming together of these two titans of old and new world to find that compromise. But of course, when you have a winery in Napa Valley, just the natural environment is going to produce richer, riper wine. So this, where's the sheet? So this white wine, and we sent out tech sheets. This is a 2-pager. So the white wine, I'm looking in the wrong place here. Where the heck is it? Oh, there it is, right in front of me. Yeah, so, okay. So just like the map said, Voskahat is the dominant white grape. Katuni, so the same 2 grapes that are in our traditional method sparkling wine dominate this white wine blend with 2 other white grapes, Kurdi and Garandemek. Oh, I just like to say these names. Garandemek, yeah. And stainless steel fermentation, right? So that, and they don't mention anything of fermentation and aging in stainless steel. So very clean. The goal here is to let these native Armenian grapes show themselves so that we can make our own understanding of what the grape and the place is all about. And so we put it to the nose. And, well, I mean, just like the sparkling wine, again, I get pear and kind of a ripe melon. Maybe apple would be more towards a yellow than a green. They don't say anything about a secondary fermentation where we might have converted the harsh green apple acidity into a softer, creamier lactic acid. Instead, I think what I get is a little bit of leesy, and when I say lees, that's just another word for the yeast. After fermentation is complete, winemakers like to leave the wine with the yeasts, and sometimes they'll stir those yeasts up to get more surface area of the wine in contact with the yeast to absorb that flavor. And again, getting some of that yeast breakdown. I wouldn't call this a very floral wine. We get a little bit of fruit blossom, but these grapes are more neutral in style. And yet we still, in spite of, when we start getting up to 14% alcohol, sometimes the ripeness in the alcohol can overwhelm that sense of earth and mineral. But no, I think it's coming through nicely here. And so let's taste. The acid is not as assertive or apparent as it is on the sparkling wine, but of course it's not, because like I said, the sparkling wine was harvested earlier at much lower sugar, higher acid level. So these grapes for the sparkling wine were harvested at 10% alcohol. The grapes for this white wine were harvested at 14% alcohol. And as I say, as sugars rise, acids fall. So this wine very well could have stayed with its malic acid to help keep it fresh, to allow the yeasty lees to add a creaminess to the wine. Brooke, what do you think of my theory? Because I'm not smelling butter, right? I smell more yeast and earth. So do you think that this is non-malic, lees aged? They don't give me how much time.
Yeah, I like your theory. I always like your theories though, Paul.
Oh, you're the best. Well, you know, I'm also trying to rely on your palate to, you know, because I don't get that warm butter lactic smell on this.
No, I don't either. But I also, like you said, I had my mom try it, and normally if it's too acidic, she doesn't like it. So it's definitely softened by something.
Yeah. Well, I think we get the creaminess from the lees. Again, you know, when you get that much sugar for 14% alcohol, the acid is going to come down. In Napa Valley, you know, winemakers will put their wines through 100% mallow, their white wines through 100% mallow, because they live in fear of having, you know, the conversion occur after bottling, right? If they don't want to filter the wine. But a lot of winemakers will do partial, some barrels that go through conversion, some that are all malic acid, because malic acid is a better what's the blank out of my mind, a better preservative. Malic acid is a stronger natural preservative than lactic acid, and so I think this is a wonderful example of clean New World winemaking with traditional ancient grape varieties. And I would put this more in a Chablis camp. Chablis has a little brighter acid and a little stronger mineral, but because of its cleanliness and lack of oak, I would say it's more Chablis styled, a New World style of that. Yeah, okay. Well, let's look at this Areni. So we have a red wine that is a translucent ruby going to kind of an orangey pink rim, little thin water at the very rim. And well, you know, I'm swirling and looking, but we know this is 14.5% alcohol. And so we get a nice thick coating of wine to the glass. And this implies to me, the color of this wine implies a thinner skinned grape. Thicker skinned grape would hold more color. Now, it's possible that it's a result of winemaking, of not wanting to get too much astringency out of the skins, but this is pretty typical of the Arenis that I have had. I've actually had more than one. A couple of years ago, there was the Armenian Wine Festival in, I know it's going to shock you when I tell you, in Glendale. And And so it was a wonderful experience to see so many wonderful wines from a place that is little known to most of us. Okay, so how shall we describe the fruits here? I think, you know, we get hints of red and black fruit, more to the red, and maybe slightly stewed, like stewed cherries and plums, maybe a little razzle dazzle. I love that razzle dazzle. More blossomy. I would put this more in the cherry blossoms. If you were gonna push me to come up with a flower, I would say rose, but I don't really believe it. It's just because you pushed me, so I said something. I think it's more cherry blossoms. And again, if oak is used on this, no, again, this wine is, because this is the black label, this is not the Sarpina that uses 17 months of used French oak. So see, Paul Hobbs here is pulling back. He gets it that these wines need to express their place. So this is, again, fruit and earth. Let's taste. Acid is moderate. I wouldn't call it high, I wouldn't call it low. The wine is dry, lots of berry fruit coming through, but it's a dry wine, no residual sugar. My teeth, I'll try it once more for Auld Lang Syne. I get a little dusting of dry tannin on my teeth, but I would call this a moderate tannin. I mean, this is not a big chewy wine. The tannins are very ripe, soft, and a light dusting on the teeth. Very drinkable wine. Oh, what do I got? Do I have a hand up? I got a chat. Is Paul muted? I suddenly lost.
Black pepper. That's it.
Oh, black pepper. Oh, Juliet. Good going. Hey, we got wine tasters in the house. A little black pepper. I think I like it. So what do we do with these wines besides drink them happily? You know, I think that this sparkling wine, you know, with Oh, I got distracted in my head there. Oh, where was I? I would say that we have wines, white wines, sparkling and white, that will be great for hors d'oeuvres, for first courses, a delicate white fish. And, you know, the other night, you know, Andreas has been doing these wonderful white asparagus dishes. And this white blend here would be wonderful with Andreas's. The Bournes had it the other night. Didn't you have? Didn't Andreas do that white asparagus for you? I think this white wine would have been great with that. Are you asking me a question, Juliet? Are you asking a question? You got to unmute yourself. Or are you just waving?
We're talking about the asparagus.
Oh yeah. It was
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was fantastic. We've got a great. We are so blessed to have such a talented and knowledgeable chef. The world is our oyster. Things are only going to get better.
We love that.
Lindsay's, you got something to say? No. Oh, you're turning me off. Okay. You don't want me to look at you. Perfectly nice face. And the Areni, I like more with fowl and white meats. Yeah. I'm because also he did duck the other day, and I'm trying to think if this would be a good duck match. Might be a little light for the duck. So I think pork and veal, fowl of all types, chicken, turkey, quail. I love quail, squab. The Areni will be great. We might even venture into some seafood, sweet fatty fish, salmon, chili bass, the sweet shellfish, lobster, crab, scallops. This Areni, I think, is soft enough, not too tannic, sufficient acidity that will make it, a good accompaniment to a pretty wide variety of foods. So, I think that I'd like to see what other Armenian producers I could find that, you see, because the second you add Paul Hobbs' name on the bottle, bam, the price goes up because, he's a fancy schmancy winemaker and he's got to earn his money. But when we see the value of this Kush sparkling wine, I know there are other Armenian wines that will give the same kind of value. I think these Yakubian Hobbs wines are wonderful wines, but I'm kind of cheap, and so I'm looking for a deal sometimes.
Paul, if I could come in for a second.
Okay, first Ara.
So for those who want to try Armenian wine, that I think it's probably the best wine coming out of Armenia is Zora.
Yeah.
Or Yeraz, which is made in amphora casks.
Oh, wow.
So great price point, $30, $35, $40, I think.
Uh-huh.
The Yeraz is higher end, it's $100, but the Zora Karasi is amazing wine coming out of Armenia.
Zora is another wonderful wine. You're right, Ara. And who knows better than you? Edith, you were going to say something.
Curious, when you were saying this Yakubian wine is a little bit more expensive, I was just wondering how expensive are they?
Well, I mean, they're really not. But when I see a traditional method sparkling wine, that I can retail to you, of course, this isn't really true retail because the pricing that we give to membership is really a token markup as opposed to a full retail. Full retail price would make this, still would maybe only make it $25 retail, right? So it's still a great value. The full retail on these white and red, if they were 35 and 38, would probably be more of like, you know, $40 to $50 a bottle. And, you know, I think they're very good, but, you know, when I start getting to that price, I start thinking about French areas and Italian, you know, but I think at the price that we're selling it to you, yeah, I think they're great wines.
Yeah, the most comparable thing I can think of for the Armenia is the Beaujolais. You know, it has a lighter structure, color, and a lot of those wines are getting up in the up in alcohol.
Yeah.
Because the fruitiness.
Yeah, fruity enough, but certainly in earth, they don't have the meatiness of the Rhone blends, but they've got certain characters. Certainly the pepper that Juliette was talking about, I think, is there. And that's certainly an element that that, you know, the Rhone style wines has.
Yeah, down it's more, I'd say Beaujolais more Gamay, you know,
Yeah.
oriented.
Mm-hmm.
My taste buds.
Yeah, I think you're right. We're gonna taste a wine. I'm trying to think where it's from. That it came off like a. Next week we're going to Portugal. And one of the wines, the red wines that we're going to taste, for me, is very much like Dolcetto from Italy. I'll be interested to get some of your opinions on that. So I'm very pleased that we're back doing this. You know, I just wasn't sure what you know, how much we were going to be open, and of course. We opened for lunch in the tap room, and now we can increase seating to 50% capacity. Things are picking up, certainly. We're staying open on the roof, and that is going to be home, hopefully forever, especially if we can figure out how to keep it just a little more protected in the wintertime. I'm sure that's part of the discussion of what's going on, but things are looking good at the Jonathan Club, and I look forward to seeing you all often here on Mondays and Wednesday through Saturday upstairs. Oh, and third week in April, I think will be our first Sunday brunch up on the roof at the Jonathan Club. So, my goodness gracious, life is good.
I commend you for doing a adventurous tasting of doing Armenian wines.
Well, you know, like I said, usually I'm tasting these wines with you for the first time. Fortunately, I had opportunities in the past to go to these Armenian wine festivals to get a glimpse of what is coming into the United States, or wines that didn't have an importer or distributor bringing them in yet, and we're showing them looking for a distributor. So I've had opportunity to taste the wines and to know that, you know, yeah, they may be old world, but they've got the benefit of new world and modern winemaking at their fingertips. And that's why, you know, everywhere in the world, my biggest fear is not really fear. My fear is having to remember all of these new wine regions that are coming online, because we're going to have a lot of wine coming in from China before long, because China sits right in the sweet zone between 30 and 50 degrees latitude. I foresee a lot of high quality wines coming in from China. So then I've got more wine regions and more cockamamie names of grapes I can't even pronounce properly the names.
Challenge reading the labels.
Yeah. So I rely on all of your help, and contributing comments is fun. It's fun for all of us, I think. So thank you. Next week we're in Portugal, and I look forward to finally being able to see you.
Paul, this is great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey,
Thank
Lynn,
We love it.
And look, we get to see our friends too.
So good to see you.
Thanks. See you.
Very nice. Paul,
Thanks for getting us together, Paul.
It's the least I could do.
I'm going
Bye,
to close you out with another historic note, and that is right near Areni, where this wonderful ancient winery was founded, is a church that dates to 1321. And it's spectacular, all made of a single stone with a 24 faceted dome on top of it.
Wow.
It's absolutely singularly beautiful. Whoever goes there for wine, visit the church.
Okay, I say field trip.
Smart move.
Nice field trip too.
All right.
Yeah, that's the next edition, Paul. We do
That's
these
right,
things
field trip.
on field trips.
Yeah, Paul takes it on the road.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's great.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. I'll see you next week. Thank you
See
all.
you
I
guys.
appreciate your support.
Armenian chicken tonight, so.
Bye.
Good night.
I don't know the tune. That's Armenian. That's Armenian for goodbye.
Oh, thank you.
My best friend, she's Armenian.
Oh, well, it's good to have Armenian friends.
I have to say, thank you so much for talking about Armenian wine. It makes me so happy to see that it's being talked out from non-Armenian circles. So in hospitality, there are three things that we don't talk about. We don't talk about religion, we don't talk about politics, and we don't talk about sex. I wish we had an opportunity to talk about politics because Armenia
That's why you guys are dull.
Yeah, I know. But this is my way of supporting Armenia by having our tasting. So.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. You made me very happy today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. See you later, Aura.
I'll see you.